If in fact Kamala Harris is elected, what would the Harris administration, in your opinion, bring to any sort of solution to the problem in Gaza?
We don't have to guess. We don't have to guess what Kamala administration would bring in terms of the question of what's happening in Palestine. She's been very clear. She's been very clear. She has said she will not stop aiding, supporting, financing the colonial state of Israel.
Hey, and we are the Coalition, loud and proud, civilly disobedient media, outrage porn free, broadcasting here in, well, South Providence, our home. We like to say we spend more time on the south end of the city than certainly the east side. I'm here as a special moment, if you will. The presidential campaign has come home to Rhode Island. I'm with Claudia de la Cruz. She is the socialist candidate, if you will, for the presidency of these United States. She, after a Herculean effort, made it on the ballot here in Rhode Island, and we ran into and worked alongside as libertarians, their petitioners frequently. And I'm proud to say we both signed each other's petitions to get each other's candidate on the ballot. There are so many directions we can go in terms of economic policy, but I'd like to focus, if you will, on considering the events of this week. Insanely enough, an escalation of the war in the Middle East. A proliferation of the effort beyond Gaza now into sweeping parts of the Middle East. About your foreign policy, what are your thoughts on what's happening in the Gaza? How would you characterize it, and what would a de la Cruz administration do about it?
Well, I think it's important. I didn't hear the second. I think it's important to understand the issue or the question of Palestine in context, and understand it in relationship beyond a foreign policy issue, a project that is an economic and political issue in the United States, which is U.S. imperialism, and understand the colonial state of Israel as a mechanism to advance the interests of the United States in the region of the Middle East. And so it hasn't been a year of genocide. It has been 76 years of an extermination campaign against Palestinian people. What we have witnessed in the last year has been the acceleration, the highest levels of brutality against the people in Palestine, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank and other regions. And so when we talk about an expansion of war in that region, we're talking about the United States funding, financing, supporting, giving resources to what is their political instrument in that region to be able to take over and maintain hegemony over that region. And so Israel is very much a project of the United States. We have to say that. And so when we talk about foreign policy, if we want to talk about a different foreign policy, we need to start by deconstructing what imperialism is and dismantling it completely. Foreign policy for us is on the basis of collaboration, is on the basis of solidarity, is not on the basis of extraction, colonization, or taking over entire regions that do not belong to the American people and do not belong to the American government or the billionaires. Ultimately, the expansion of war anywhere does not benefit the working class. In fact, it harms the working class of this country. Let's think about this: over $300 billion that have been gifted to Zelensky to put forth a war against the Russian country. To advance NATO. What is NATO if not an instrument of the United States? The same thing has happened in Palestine. $26 billion have been gifted, and that is on top of the $4 billion that are given every year to the colonial state of Israel. $26 billion in a year to be able to advance genocide in that region. How does that advance infrastructure? How does that advance healthcare? How does that advance education? And the many things that we're struggling with in this country as citizens of the United States. And so when we think about foreign policy and when we think about international issues, we cannot think about it as something that is outside and it's only affecting the people across the seas. It's also affecting people in this country. And so with that understanding, when we're talking about the Vote Socialist campaign, we're talking about the reorganization of society in a way that advances the interests and the needs of working class people in this country, but also helps alleviate the misery that U.S. imperialism has created all over the world.
If in fact Kamala Harris is elected, what would the Harris administration, in your opinion, bring to any sort of solution to the problem in Gaza?
We don't have to guess. We don't have to guess what Kamala administration would bring in terms of the question of what's happening in Palestine. She's been very clear. She's been very clear. She has said she will not stop aiding, supporting, financing the colonial state of Israel. And for as long as the United States continues to finance apartheid, genocide, and extermination campaign against the Palestinian people, we will not see an end. We will see the expansion of war in that region. So Kamala Harris is not the solution to what's happening in Gaza. She is not the solution to what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. She is not the solution to what's happening in Congo or Sudan or Haiti, because ultimately her task is to protect U.S. imperialism. And so she could give us all the pleasantries and all the statements, but in actuality, when she stands there and says that her commitment is to build the most lethal military force, that includes the continuation of war in Palestine and across that region.
On a practical basis, it can be argued that a Socialist Party candidate would be competing, if you will, for the votes of alleged progressive Democrats across the country. Is it possible to jive, if you will, the principles of being a progressive Democrat and being anti-war and support for Kamala Harris?
I think that there are certain things that are non-negotiable. You cannot negotiate your values. You cannot negotiate your principles. You cannot negotiate your backbone. And people may say that genocide is a single issue. In fact, it's the only issue, because it's a reflection of what is awaiting the rest of the world. If we allow that to happen in Palestine, we can allow that to happen here. We can allow that to happen in Africa. We can allow that to happen anywhere in our communities, because we have been detached from humanity. So no, I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that if you have progressive politics and if you have values that are in support of humanity and the planet, you could possibly, consciously vote for someone like Kamala Harris.
And then I've got to ask you about the Donald.
About the what?
The Donald.
Okay, the Donald.
I'm from the New York City area. I was working in New York
The Donald.
when he became the Donald. That's what they used to call him. A snapshot of his reaction, if in fact you can pull together one, to what's going on in the Gaza.
I mean, I think he is very blunt. He's unfiltered. He is domesticated in many ways. And he expresses the feeling of both the Republicans and the Democrats in a very clear way. The Democrats won't dare to say, complete the job. They won't dare say it, but they are the ones that finance Netanyahu to do it. And so Trump, in many ways, is a threat to many things. But we cannot think in any way, shape, or form that the Democrats are any less of a threat. They're also a threat. And in fact, they're like the fox.
Guarding, if you will, the American Hen House. So issues like corporate welfare.
Yeah, they are the fox. The Republicans are the wolves. They are very clear and very brutal and very frontal. And the Democrats are the fox that will smile while at the same time have the same intent to end up with their flesh in their teeth. And so we have to be really, really clear on who our enemies are. And neither the Democrats or the Republicans are our friends. Trump just happens to be a little bit more clear with his threats.
Welcome back to Rhode Island. Tell folks how they can find out more about presidential candidate Claudia Cruz and the Socialist Party. Your web presence, where can they read up?
Well, folks can go to votesocialist2024.com. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on X. You can follow us on YouTube. We are on the ballot as the Party for Socialism and Liberation. You could also Google and research more about the party and the campaign. And thank you so much for having me.
One last question. If you were to, in a nutshell, describe the message that you're bringing to Rhode Islanders tonight, what is that?
We have to get ready to build the movement, the independent working class movement that will be a force to reckon with, because whoever becomes the tenant of the White House will be attacking the majority of people in this world, the majority of people in this country. And if we don't organize, if we don't come together, if we don't build strategy, if we don't get into communities and deepen the consciousness of our people, we're lost. And I believe that we have the capacity, that we have the will, and we have the urgency to do so.
Well, it looks like you're packing the house out there, so good luck in your speech, and again, welcome to Rhode Island.
Thank you so much.